There is a truth that football has never tried to hide. Justice does not always exist on the pitch. The best team can lose. The most beautiful players can walk away with nothing. And sometimes, the stories that stay with the world are not the ones that follow logic, but the ones that completely break it. That is why football is more than just a game. It is a symphony of emotions, where joy and heartbreak exist side by side. There are matches that lift people into a state of pure euphoria, moments that feel almost unreal. But there are also matches that leave behind a quiet, lingering emptiness, a feeling that never fully fades, even decades later. Italy's 3-2 victory over Brazil in 1982 is one of those moments, a match where the result belonged to the team that deserved it in that instant. But the beauty, the poetry, seemed to belong to the side that lost. And at the very center of it all stood Paolo Rossi. Yet what makes this story extraordinary is not simply his hat trick. It is the fact that only days before that night, he was a man almost no one believed in. A player whose presence felt more like a question than an answer. To understand how powerful that transformation was, we have to go back to a time when Rossi was not a hero, but a symbol of controversy. In the spring of 1980, Italian football was shaken to its core by the Toiniro Scandal. It wasn't just headlines or rumors, it was a public collapse. Players were arrested. Some were taken away in handcuffs, right from the locker rooms. Fans watched in disbelief as the sport they loved seemed to fracture before their eyes. This was more than a scandal. It was a wound, a deep crack in the soul of Italian football. And then, Paolo Rossi's name appeared among those under investigation. At the time, he was one of the brightest young forwards in the country, a player many believed would lead Italy into the future. But suddenly, he was accused of being involved in match fixing, of accepting money to influence a result. Even though the court would later declare him not guilty, that decision could not erase the doubt. In moments like this, perception often matters more than truth. The Italian Football Federation needed someone to stand as an example, and Rossi became that example. He was banned for 2 years. 2 years without football. 2 years without the rhythm, the pressure, the noise, the purpose. For most players, that kind of absence is not just a setback, it is an ending. But perhaps the cruelest part was not the punishment itself. It was the silence, because when you are a striker, your life is built on moments. The roar of the crowd, the split-second decisions, the feeling of the ball leaving your foot. That is your identity. And when all of that disappears, what remains is not just a player without a game. It is a man without a place. By the time Rossi returned, he was no longer the same. The sharpness that once defined him had faded. His movements were slower. His instincts seemed dulled. Confidence, the invisible fuel of every great striker, was no longer there. A finisher without belief is just another player on the pitch. And to many, Rossi no longer looked like anything more than that. Yet in the middle of all that doubt, there was one man who still saw something others could not. Enzo Bearzot. His decision to include Rossi in Italy's squad for the 1982 World Cup was not just controversial. It was almost irrational in the eyes of the public. A player who had barely played competitive football in 2 years, suddenly chosen to represent the nation on the biggest stage. It felt like a gamble with no logical upside, and the early matches seemed to confirm everyone's worst fears. Italy's group stage campaign was flat, uninspiring, almost lifeless. 3 matches, 3 draws, no victories, no momentum. They played like a team searching for identity, unsure of who they were or what they wanted to be. And Rossi, the man meant to lead the attack, became the most visible symbol of that confusion. He drifted through games like a shadow. His touches lacked precision. His runs lacked conviction. His shots lacked danger. People began to call him a ghost. Not because he wasn't physically there, but because his presence changed nothing. Italy advanced to the next round, but only because of goal difference, a technicality that felt more like luck than achievement. Few believed they would go any further. And then came the second group stage, Argentina and Brazil, the defending champions and the most beautiful team in the world. Italy, once again, were the outsiders. No one expected them to survive. But football rarely listens to expectations. Against Argentina, Italy delivered a performance built not on beauty, but on discipline and control. Claudio Gentile marked Diego Maradona with relentless intensity, denying him space, time, and rhythm. It was not elegant, but it was effective. Italy won. Still, even after that result, the narrative did not change, because the real test was yet to come. Brazil. The Brazil of 1982 was not just a football team. They were an idea, a vision of what the game could be at its most expressive. Their style was fluid, creative, almost carefree. Zico orchestrated. Socrates glided. Falcone dictated tempo. They played not just to win, but to inspire. And the world fell in love with them. Before the match, the situation was simple. Brazil only needed a draw to advance. Italy had to win. One side represented artistry, the other, necessity. On July 5, 1982, at the Sarria Stadium in Barcelona, those two philosophies collided. And within that collision, something unexpected happened. Paolo Rossi, the forgotten man, found himself again. In the 5th minute, Antonio Cabrini delivered a cross into the box. It was not a moment that seemed dangerous. Brazil's defense was set. The situation looked under control. But Rossi moved, quietly, precisely. He rose above the defense and met the ball with a header that sent it into the net. 1-0. It was sudden, almost disruptive. But Brazil responded the way great teams do, calmly. Minutes later, they equalized through Socrates, finishing off a beautifully constructed move. 1-1. Balance restored, or so it seemed, because what no one could see was the shift happening within Rossi. Confidence, once lost, had begun to return. In the 25th minute, a careless Brazilian pass created a small opening, the kind of moment that disappears in an instant. But Rossi reacted faster than anyone else. He intercepted, advanced, and finished. 2-1. The goal was not spectacular, but it was decisive. The second half belonged, as expected, to Brazil. They pushed forward with confidence, controlling possession and forcing Italy deeper and deeper into their own half. Eventually, their pressure paid off. Falcao scored. 2-2. At that point, the outcome felt inevitable. Brazil only needed to maintain the scoreline, and given their quality, that seemed almost guaranteed. But football is not governed by probability. It is shaped by moments. In the 74th minute, Italy won a corner. The ball was delivered into the box, cleared, and then returned in a phase of confusion. For a brief second, everything became chaotic. And in chaos, instinct matters more than structure. Rossi was there, unmarked, alert, ready. He struck the ball. 3-2. A hat trick. In that instant, the match changed its meaning. This was no longer just a game. It became a turning point. Brazil, the embodiment of beauty, found themselves on the brink. Italy, the team no one trusted, were suddenly within reach of something extraordinary. The final minutes were filled with urgency and desperation. Brazil attacked relentlessly, but the fluidity that once defined them had vanished. Their passes became rushed. Their movements lost clarity. Pressure had replaced freedom. And when the final whistle blew, it confirmed what few had imagined possible. Italy had won. The stadium fell into a strange silence. Not empty, but heavy. A silence filled with disbelief, with admiration, and perhaps with a sense of loss, because something beautiful had ended. But football does not exist to preserve beauty. It exists to create moments. And from that night forward, everything changed. Rossi continued his rise, scoring twice in the semi-final and once in the final. Italy went on to win the World Cup. In just 3 matches, he scored 6 goals, a transformation that felt almost impossible, from absence to dominance, from doubt to certainty, from irrelevance to inevitability. He finished as the tournament's top scorer. He was named Player of the Tournament. Later that year, he won the Ballon d'Or. Yet even those achievements do not fully capture the essence of his story, because what people remember is not just what he won, it is what they felt. In Italy, his image still lives in everyday places, cafes, restaurants, quiet corners where memories are kept alive through stories. Not because he was flawless, but because he delivered something rare, a moment where an entire nation felt united. For the rest of the world, however, his legacy carries a different tone. He is the man who ended a dream. But perhaps that is what makes his story complete. Because football is not a fairy tale. It does not promise justice. It does not guarantee beauty. It only offers possibility. Rossi was not the most gifted player. Italy was not the most admired team. But on that night in Barcelona, none of that mattered. Because in football, there are moments when everything narrows down to a single chance, a single decision, a single action. And history does not wait for the perfect. It belongs to the ones who are ready. On that night, when the world expected something else, Italy stepped forward. Rossi answered. And somewhere between doubt and destiny, between chaos and clarity, a story was carved into the fabric of the game. Not because it was flawless, but because it was real. Not because everyone agreed with it, but because no one could forget it. Because sometimes, in football, you don't need to be the best. You just need one night where everything you touch refuses to fade away.